Hello, everybody! Welcome to Kevin Plays Disc Golf. Today we have a playthrough and course review from New England College in Henniker, New Hampshire.
My name is Kevin, and I play disc golf.
Filming on course for this video was done on September 5th, 2024 and September 18th, 2024. The primary access to the course will be from Route 114. If you're coming from the south, you'll want to take a left onto Grove Street just after the open park area on the left after passing the Putnam Sports Arena. If you're coming from the north, you'll want to take a right onto Grove after going through downtown Henniker and past the main admissions office for New England College on the right. Note that Grove Street is the road perpendicular to Route 114 and not the road that goes through the park area. Shortly after turning onto Grove Street, you'll need to take a right turn into a small parking lot, though this actually keeps you on Grove Street. Continue through this parking lot and the road will get narrow as you will pass two more athletic buildings and the soccer field on the right. Just after the soccer field, you'll start to go uphill and there will be a moderately sized parking lot on your left. This is where you want to park. The start kiosk and first hole are on the hill, on the corner, on the right as you enter it, and the exit for the course is directly across the parking lot from where you drive in. The course is on a small college campus, however it is completely separate from anything else, so it's basically open all the time. The only issue is that if you're playing during a time when the soccer field is in use or during prime school hours, the parking lot can get congested, much like the reason for needing a cough drop. Though the course was dry when I played it, I do not expect that aside from the ground being a bit more muddy that there will be any significant problems if played when it is particularly wet. Going up the hill from the first to the second shot on hole 3 may be treacherous if it is particularly muddy, and the small creek on hole 7 may have significantly more water, but I don't think that either of these will significantly affect how the course would ideally be played. If the course is not ideally played, well, that may make your third shot on hole 3 more challenging. There is only one set of tees and baskets here, so there aren't any options to play different course configurations. Something to note, though, is that UDisc is wildly inaccurate here, and the map on the kiosk at the start of the round is not drawn to scale. Though there are no rules for alcohol, tobacco, or dogs, I suspect that as long as you are respectful to the property and carry out any trash or dog waste, they're all okay. Though there are no bathrooms on course, during the season where the soccer field is in use, there are usually porta potties set up near the field not too far from the parking lot. There are trails around the course that are used for hiking and mountain biking, so just be aware of others around before you throw. In general, there are not a lot of other people on them, but you should be aware that it is a possibility. I'll have my overall review of the course at the end of the video. Be sure to post your comments as to your thoughts of what looks fun and where you think the problem areas on this course are. Now we'll move on to take a look at the property itself, starting with the road you drive in on and the parking lot where you'll be parking.
Here's a view of the road you'll be coming in on. That soccer field will be on your right. You'll pull in here, and you can park pretty much anywhere in this parking lot. I'm at the northeastern corner of the parking lot. However, the exit for the disc golf course is there. If you see the fence, it comes out just after where the fence is. We turn around, there is a nice little map of the course here. We don't actually see the ropes course, but we have the course itself here. And from here, to get to the start of the course, we walk to the left, and we have the hole 1 tee is right here. The tees are basically these 4x4s, pretty much everywhere. And this is a 185-foot par 4, or par 3 rather. One nice thing is that they have the elevations on these. This says plus 8 feet, but I think that severely underestimates. The tee basket is over to the right through those trees up the hill. It's kind of a tricky shot because you sort of need to go above that broken branch, but below any leaves or branches above that. So I'd really kind of like to see those dead trees cut down. If not entirely removed, at least take a good solid 6 to 8 feet off the top of them to make it so you can actually get at the basket without doing the throw the disc at those and hope you miss. So somehow I ended up going under those trees, but got a nice lucky skip and got to just outside of circle 1 with my drive. I did end up short. One thing to note here is it is bad to be long, as if you go past the basket and past where the trees are, it does drop off very steeply behind the basket. We'll actually get to the hole 2 tee pad and you'll see how far it drops off after that if you make it that far. And it's really only about 30 feet past where the basket is. My second shot ended up with a clang off the band, so reminded me to point out these Innova baskets. They are pretty visible from far away. They all do have that yellow top, so it's relatively easy to see. I did end up with a par here, so let's take our disc out of the basket, go past, and we'll take a quick walk over to the hole 2 tee. And here it is. And hole 2 is a 207-foot par 3. This is very much right to left. The tee, or the basket rather, is over in that direction. So if you look sort of straight down the middle, there's a little gap that you can see the basket from here. It is 207 feet. It is downhill about 14 feet, and you can see the drop off is pretty much all right here. This is a tough one because you need to be able to get it to move that far to the left without hitting the trees. So I managed to avoid all the trees, and this is about the 5th time I've played this course. I've played it a few times before. This is by far the closest I have ended up to the pin. I'm just inside circle 1, and we'll see if I can make a putt for birdie from here. Nope, short. All right, so here we have our drop in for 3. And we'll take a walk from the second hole over to the third. The signage here is not great, but if you follow the paths, you'll generally end up where you want to. So as you're facing the basket from the tee, it's going to be to your right. And we come through this little path, and here we have the third tee box. Hole 3 is a 328-foot par 4. It is very steeply uphill at the end. It says plus 22 feet. I think it's more than that, and it's almost all on the second shot. Here we have the tee pad. It's a sort of a broken rubber tee mat here, and the first shot, if you can get it through those trees and just straight up in sort of that empty area there, just past the large rock, that is going to put you in good shape for the second shot. The further right you can go, the better off you're going to be, as the actual direction of the hole is kind of through those trees up that way. However, we'll get a better view of it once we get to the landing zone for the tee shot. Looking back at the tee pad here, there is the large rock that I mentioned to go over, and I'm standing pretty much right in the ideal landing zone. You can see how far uphill it is. Again, the video doesn't really show how steeply uphill that is. The basket is right at the top. From here we have a clear shot. You can see my disc in the lower right corner. This particular shot plays to my strength, as I have was a right-hand forehand thrower. I have a disc that is very overstable and will go this distance and hook right at the end, and that's pretty much the ideal shot you want to have. If that was not right behind those trees, that would be in perfect position. If that disc was 3 feet to the left. A bad second shot and a good third shot left me with a drop in for par 4 here. Something else to notice is that the hole drops away pretty steeply to the right of the basket. If you go a little long, it drops off slightly, but you do have the chance of it rolling a very long way down the hill if you get a roll away that ends up bouncing to the right of the basket and going away. So we'll have our drop in for 3 here, or 4 here rather. There's our drop in for 4. And the walk from 3 to 4 is the longest on the course between holes. There is a small sign here that says next hole. But if you follow this path, the path is fairly well marked as long as you kind of go in the direction that the arrows say. And yeah, as I said, this is a pretty good ways up here. You are going uphill quite a bit. And following the path. But as long as you follow the path, you'll end up in the right spot. There's another sign that says next hole pointing this way. And there right in front of us, we have the tee for hole 4. Hole 4 is a 191-foot par 3, uphill 12 feet. Basket straight ahead of us. There are some different options. The tee sign says there is a left and a right, but I find that straight up the middle kind of works the best for me. But if you go to the right, there's a little bit more room there. But if you can avoid the trees, straight up the middle is the way to go. I must be improving at my right to left shots. This is the second one today, first on hole 2 and now on hole 4 that I've thrown particularly good. I'm within about 20 feet of the basket here, so let's see what we can do to see if I can actually make this birdie putt instead of miss it like I did earlier. Hooray! So I will take that. This is one of the birdieable holes on this course for pretty much everyone, as long as you can somehow avoid the trees. All right, going from hole 4 to 5, this is another fairly long walk, and it's a little bit confusing. It's not particularly well marked. There is a single path here, but as you'll see when we get a little bit further on, it's not exactly obvious where to go if you don't happen to look in the exact right spot of where the next tee box is. So we have a downed tree here that looks like it's been here for a while. We have a little red mark on a tree there to indicate that this is a trail. And when we get to this stump and tree, we want to take a left here. And if we look, the tee pad for hole 5 is over here. All right, hole 5, dirt tee pad, 278-foot par 3, 30 feet downhill. I'm actually pointing directly at the basket, so if you're looking at this particular angle, sort of through the trees, depending on how much the leaves have filled in, you may or may not be able to see it. I can see it from here. I can see half of the basket, but that is not the direction to go. The direction is you're intended to go this way for about 75 feet or so, and then after that is when it drops steeply downhill through the trees to the left. I may talk about this hole a little bit more later, but this is probably my least favorite hole on the course, just because it is very difficult to get there. So we're about 50 to 75 feet off the tee here, and this is kind of the intended landing area. There's the down tree that you could see from earlier. The basket, we have a good look at it here, right through those two trees. My disc, I'm not sure you can see it from here, but let's see if I move over this way a little bit. ended up down there. I ended up having a nice, again, a nice right to left shot that made it through most of the trees before hitting any of them, which that's about as good as you can hope for on this hole. So off the basket for my second shot, and then about a 15-foot putt in for my third shot. So this is going from hole 5 to hole 6. There's a nice wide pathway to the right of the basket as you're looking at it from sort of the main direction of the fairway. It's a nice wide path. It's not marked, so there's a little bit of mystery of, am I going the right way? Am I going the right way? But it is right down at the end of this path. And if we keep going, here is the tee pad for 6. Hole 6 is a 155-foot par 3. It is the shortest hole on the course. However, it is significantly uphill at plus 17 feet. Again, I think that 17 feet may be a little bit of an underestimation, but this is one of the holes that I have birdied prior to this round. All right, let's see what we can do from here. See if I can make this, it's gonna be about a 15 to 20 foot birdie putt uphill. Again, I had another really good drive here, so hopefully we'll see if this works out. There we go, another birdie. That's the most birdies I've had, more birdies in this round than I've had all the other times I've played this combined. All right, so with the tee behind us for hole 6, if we pick up our disc from the basket and we go a little bit to the right, there's a path over here through some trees that have been cleared out. And right at the top of this is hole 7. All right, so here we are at hole 7. This is a 322-foot par 3, downhill 26 feet. There is some out of bounds on this hole. To the right, down at the bottom of the hill, there's a rock wall. So past the rock wall is OB. There's not a whole lot of fairway room, so this is another one that's kind of aim for the trees and hope you miss and somehow manage to squeak it through that cluster of trees down there in front of you. The hole itself is, it's pretty much dead straight as we have it there. You do have to go through trees to get there, so again, there's not really a good clear shot to the basket and not really even a good layup, so it's just, again, kind of aim for the trees and hope you miss. All right, so looking back up at the tee there, we're sort of where the ideal landing zone would be. You can actually see the basket for hole 6 sort of off to the right a little bit there. But if we turn around, we could go a little bit further, but we have a good view of the basket from here. Again, this is a pretty sharp dog leg to the right. You can see the out of bounds wall starts not too far over there. There's a little creek that runs along the right side of the fairway. There is a little bit of water in it now, but I can't imagine that there's ever too much water in there that you're ever going to lose a disc in there to be gone forever. So although it looks deep, it's not that wide, and I don't think much trickles in there. All right, here we're at the hole 7 basket. You can see there's the creek just behind it and the rock wall. That rock wall is what is out of bounds going all the way up. So my hole here, I aimed for the trees and tried to miss, but I did not miss. So that ended up being about a 15-foot putt for a 5, so double bogey here. So just something to note about the basket here. This back side has been damaged. It looks like a tree probably fell on it at one point. There are a lot of down trees around here. We are in the middle of a pine forest after all. So that is just something we have to contend with. I have never had it be an issue of it popping out because of the basket being bent, but it is what it is. So there we go. All right, going from hole 7 to hole 8, we want to have that little creek on our right and follow the path. This is a pretty short walk from 7 to 8. There is no tee pad or tee box here, but here's the sign, and this is where we should start for hole 8. Hole 8 is a 202-foot long par 3, very slightly downhill. This is definitely a birdie opportunity. If I throw as well as I did on some of the earlier holes with that slight left to right shot, I should be pretty good here. One thing to note is that there is out of bounds. Again, it's the rock wall to the right and a rock wall behind are both out of bounds. So just don't go too far or too far to the left. It's actually kind of hard to get to the rock wall to the left with the trees if you aim for the gap there. All right, this shot's a little bit different. So this has both the basket and looking back up towards the tee pad. If you remember, I just said not too long ago that there's out of bounds long and you didn't want to go too far. Well, I am 40 feet long, and though I'm not out of bounds, I am touching the brick wall, or rock wall rather. So we'll see what we can do from here, but most likely I will be happy with my 3 and move on. All right, so I got my 3 on hole 8. You want to go basically to get to hole 9, basically right over the rock wall, pretty much right where I had my initial drive. There's a little pathway here, and then we want to take a right. You want to be a little bit careful because this actually is the fairway for 9 that we're walking up right now. And there is the tee pad. All right, hole 9 is a 337-foot par 3, 23 feet downhill. The main fairway is here, but we need to go left. You cannot see the basket from here. Actually, if we look right in the direction there, not by that first little tree, but between the next 2 trees, and sort of follow the right edge of that to 2 other trees that are close together, you can see the basket. I'll mark that up a little bit better in editing here, but that is where we want to end up. Yeah, one other thing to note on this hole is if we look at the tee pad, there's a little log that sort of indicates it. There's a lot of roots and stuff here, so if we step back about 8 or 10 feet, we get much better footing and can have a much better drive for what's a fairly long hole. All right, looking back at the tee, this is the gap that we ideally want to try and go through. Somehow I managed to bounce it off 2 trees and end up in the fairway here. There is more room to go a little bit further, so if I hadn't hit either of those trees, I'd be much closer to the basket. Basket here, it's a little bit obstructed by a branch, but you can see the top of it. I'll sort of point it out a little bit better later, but this is about exactly about the best you can hope for here for long approach shot for your second shot. So after bouncing off of 4 trees total on this hole and taking a 4, it's not really that bad. I will take that. This was actually my best round ever here. Again, the 2 birdies earlier in the round helped quite a bit. So here's how we leave here. So we walk up to the hole 9, and if we just continue past the basket, follow the little trail here, there's a kind of follow the light that looks like it's going towards empty space. And when we emerge from the trees, we are in the parking lot where we started. Now we are on the opposite side of the parking lot, so here's the fence that I mentioned, and if we look across on top of the hill over there, that is the sign where we took the first part of the video here. So if you want to play another 9, feel like you have another go, then you can walk over there, or this is where you end up and you can hop in your car and head off home.
Now for my thoughts about the course as a whole. Though there were no active upgrades at the time of filming, there were clear signs that general maintenance is done occasionally. As it is in the middle of a pine forest, there are signs where down trees have either been moved or cut away to restore access to a path. My thumbnail hole for this course is the tee shot for hole 1. There aren't any real standout pictures for this course that show up well on camera, but it does give you a good idea of what to expect for this course. My favorite hole is hole 4. Like much of this course, it rewards precision rather than pure distance. With it being uphill, it plays a little bit longer than it actually is, and there are viable options for what gap to go through. An honorable mention goes to hole 3 for similar reasons. My least favorite hole is hole 7, followed closely by hole 5. These two holes are very similar in that there's a clear fairway that you're intended to follow for a bit, then take a left turn, going downhill, and hope that your shot is somehow precise or lucky enough to miss any trees after the disc turns left. There are a couple of options here to fix these. One would involve removing trees to lessen the dogleg effect and offer a straighter and clearer shot to the basket. The other option would likely to be easier would be to push the tee boxes back and make them par 4s. There's room to move each of them back 100 feet or more with minimal impact to the surrounding areas. Too often it feels like whether or not I have a good round here is determined by how lucky I am getting through the trees on 5 and 7, where a bad tree bounce on an otherwise well-placed throw can be the difference between a 3 or a 5 on each of those holes. The first and last holes are critical for introducing the course and leaving the last impression at the end of the round. The first hole does provide a good intro for what many of the holes are like. It's short, uphill, has a couple of different options for how to play it, and makes it clear that avoiding trees at this course is going to be critical to having a good round. Hole 9 is an excellent, well-designed hole. It's the only hole on the course where you can let a driver rip to see how far you can throw it, while still needing to figure out which gap you want to hit and how you want to shape the shot. It's challenging, but it doesn't feel like a good shot ends up in a bad spot because of an unlucky tree kick here. The feeling it leaves after playing hole 9 makes you want to play the course again. Course navigation here is like being stuck in an amusement park line on a busy day. I'll get there eventually if I keep going the way I think I should, but it may take a while. There aren't too many places to get lost if you stay on the paths, but it may take a while to get there. This course is very safe for discs. Even with all of the woods, the brush is thin enough that even with all of the random tree bounces a disc can take, very rarely does the disc end up in a location where you can't follow it and it ends up in a spot that's hard to find. Just make sure you're using a bright and obnoxiously colored disc and you should be fine. The Innova baskets are of good quality and the yellow banding makes them easier to see in person than it appears in the video. The hole 7 basket appears to have had a tree fall on it at one point and could stand to be replaced, but that is not nearly as big of a concern as the tee pads. The tee pads are inconsistent at best. There are a few holes where it is clear that there was a better tee pad at one point, but there are others where there do not appear to have ever been any definitive markings. That said, this does make it easier to change where they are, which would correct a lot of the issues that I have with this course. It would be relatively easy to move the tee pads back on holes 3, 4, and 6 to make the holes more challenging while still being fair, on hole 9 to make it a short birdieable par 4, or on holes 5 and 7 to make them fair par 4s rather than hope you miss the trees par 3s. My overall course rating of how far I would be willing to drive to get there for the New England College Disc Golf Course is 30 minutes if you've never played it before, or 20 minutes to play again. This 20-minute drive to play again is a bit inflated, as there is a 9-hole course at Hillsborough Deering High School that is at the complete opposite end of the spectrum, much like Red and Violet. Hillsborough Deering High School is completely open on 6 of the 9 holes, with only one hole that would feel in place here at New England College. The only other courses that are within a 30-minute drive of here are the pay-to-play Northwind Disc Golf Course in Hopkinton, and the course at New Hampshire Technical Institute at Concord, which is 25 minutes away. As a mild spoiler to a future video playthrough of the NHTI course, I feel that both New England College and the Hillsborough Deering High School are better disc golf experiences than NHTI. Like, subscribe, and share like where I'm seated. Also, check out my other videos like the one linked here.